Hi friends, how are you? By blessings of the God, you are doing well. So this is Dr. A B JENA, faculty member of PG Department of Business Management, as well as the coordinator of PG Department of Commerce, Fakulty University, Basavar, Balasur, Odisha. Friends, once again I am welcoming to all of you to your channel, to my channel, Dr. A B JENA Classes. फ्रेंड्स आज हम डिस्कशन करेंगे तो वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कंटेंट, और आज का डिस्कशन भी बहुत यूजफुल एंड फ्रूटफुल होगा, पर्टिकुलरली दैट इज द बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशन। आज का कंटेंट क्या है फ्रेंड्स? सो व्हाट इज द बेसिक डिफरेंस बिटवीन द प्राइमरी डेटा एंड सेकेंडरी डेटा। सो फॉर एज टुडेज डिस्कशन इज कंसर्न, आज का डिस्कशन will be very useful for the students of that is the BCom, BBA, MCom, MBA, PMR, MFC, MBA and other related subject like that is the economy. So friends, during the discussion, if any mismatch or gap you find, kindly give your valuable comment and suggestion in the comment section. So friends, without losing our golden time, wasting our valuable time, let's start today's discussion. That is the basic difference between primary data and the secondary data. So friends, during the discussion definitely you will get the more basis of that is the comparison point in between the primary data and the secondary data. So friends, it's the common question so far as in the that is the semester or board examination. So friends, you will get that is short question as well as the long question. So first one, basis of comparison point kya hai? Meaning. So what is the meaning of primary data and what is the meaning of secondary data? So primary data refers to the first hand data gathered or collected by a researcher himself or herself, whereas secondary data means the data collected by someone else earlier or before. I mean the secondary data are available, whereas the first time that is the primary data is to be collected by the researcher. So second one, basis of comparison point kya hai? Cost effectiveness. Collection of primary data is expensive, whereas the collection of secondary data is economical and less as compared to the primary data. So next one is time consuming. On this basis, easily we can compare in between the primary data and secondary data. Collection of primary data is also time consuming and it takes longer period, whereas collection of secondary data is less time consuming and shorter period as compared to the primary data. So next one friends, हम देखेंगे the sources. What are the sources for the primary data, and similarly what are the sources for the secondary data? So here the sources of primary data are the surveys, observation, questionnaire, personal interview, experiment, etc. Through it, the researcher can collect the primary data for the research. Whereas the secondary data, the sources of secondary data are the government publications, trade publications, websites, books, journals, articles, internet records, internal records, social media, etc. Next one, basis of comparison, that is the nature of data. Primary data is based on a real-time data and up to date, whereas the secondary data is based on the past data. So next one, basis of comparison point kya hai friends? So it's the accuracy. Primary data is more accurate than the secondary data, whereas secondary data less accurate as compared to primary data. So next one friends, हम देखेंगे reliability. Primary data is more reliable than the secondary data, whereas the secondary data is less reliable as compared to the primary data. So next one, basis of comparison kya hai friends, is the data type. So primary data is mainly involved with qualitative data, whereas the secondary data is mainly involved with the quantitative data, means here that is the number, whereas it's that is the qualitative features. Next one, so it's that is the perception, feeling, liking, disliking, etc. What is the main purpose of primary data? So primary data is collected and used mainly to address the specific objectives, whereas secondary data is collected and used for the various purposes, that is the supplementing the primary data, historical analysis, better comparison and the trend analysis. So this is the purpose of primary data as well as the secondary data. So next one हम friends देखेंगे observe methods. What are the methods to collect the primary data as well as the secondary data? Observations, experiments, interview are the main methods for collection of primary data, whereas the next research methods, online searching are the main methods for the secondary data, to have the secondary data. Next one, basis of comparison, it's the coverage. Primary data has the limited coverage, whereas secondary data has the wider coverage. So next one, basis of comparison, what is the freshness? Primary data is up to date, whereas the secondary data may be outdated. Next one, basis of comparison, it's the biasness. The possibility of a biasness exists in the case of or during the collection of primary data, whereas somewhat it is found safe from the biasness in the case of secondary data, because already the secondary data are available. And next one, basis of comparison, it's the availability. So it's the primary data is not available in refined form. It is in raw form, whereas secondary data is available in refined form or tailor-made form. So next one, basis of comparison, friends, is interesting. That is the example. The examples of primary data are the surveys, interviews, experiments, observation, etc. But whereas the examples of secondary data are the books, journals, magazines, newspaper, internet. So friends, in the fill in the blanks, write 1 or 2 sentences in board exam, you may get. So next one, हम देखेंगे friends, the basis of comparison, its advantages. The primary data has the advantages of authenticity, specific and up-to-date information, whereas secondary data has the advantages of highly inexpensive and less time consuming. So last but not the least, what are the disadvantages of primary data as well as the secondary data? So there is difficult to collect the primary data, and which is expensive as well as the time consuming process in the case of primary data, whereas inaccuracy and less reliable are the main disadvantages. That the information is also, or the information may be old in the case of a secondary data. So these are all about today's discussion. So before concluding our discussion, I am wishing all the very best for your upcoming, that is the board exam, as well as this discussion will be useful and fruitful in the case of that is the lectureship UGC NET JRF as well as a PG and a PhD entrance examination for the subject of commerce, management, economics and other related subjects. So thanks a million to all of you.